Welcome to Strip Cover Lit. I'm Adrian Fort.
And I'm Dalton Gentry.
And what are we doing right now, Dalton?
It's Harry Potter.
It's Harry Potter.
It's everybody's favorite segment. This is Adrian Reads Harry Potter.
Yes. Now, you may have noticed that on the thumbnail that this is Harry Potter 7 and 8, not 7, 8, and 9. And that's because I've got something I want to talk about that's going to take a while, and it harkens back to the very first book in the Harry Potter series, which is mentioned briefly here. So we're going to take some extra time to do that, and it might take... You're going to want to see it, I think, if I am right about anything that happens here. I've got some literary analysis that is going to be on the level of nothing I have done for Harry Potter yet.
Let me explain this in Dalton terms.
Go on.
I say, so Adrian, we're doing 7, 8, and 9 this week. He's like, no. We've got to do 7 and 8. I need time to talk about this. I've just found it. I figured it out. I figured everything out. I know it. This is on the level of literary criticism. This is on the level of a dissertation.
Yeah, if this paper has not been written, it needs to be written.
This is big. So I have obliged Adrian and said we're going to cut a chapter so we can talk about what Adrian needs to talk about.
Yes.
So
go on the rundown, 7 and 8, what happens?
Chapter 7 and 8. We have Bagman and Crouch. Chapter 7. We get to meet Bagman and Crouch, obviously.
Yes.
We are at the World Cup campsite. We get to see the Obliviate spell.
Okay.
So a little bit of brainwashing, in a sense.
Right.
There's some interesting things going on there.
Has that not occurred in Harry Potter before?
I think it happened
once.
You had it with, what's his bucket from Book 2? Gilderoy Lockhart.
Yes.
But now this is being used like Men in Black style.
Right.
So there's something to talk about there. Chapter 8, the Quidditch World Cup. We get to meet the Malfoy family. We meet Narcissa Malfoy, which I thought you just loved the name.
Right.
It'd run for you. The Vila, I think, are going to be a huge talking point. So we get that like the halftime show.
Right.
And sports. It's a good sport chapter.
You do that every week.
I do. And hold on, let me say this here. This is very important.
Yes.
We get a match featuring Bulgaria, not Romania.
Had we said Romania?
I said Romania last week to anger and pitchforks on YouTube. I'm sorry.
If you're new to this series, one thing that happens, I've never read Harry Potter before. Dalton has read Harry Potter before. Therefore, Dalton fields the comments for the Harry Potter videos. I do not see them. If you were wanting to talk about spoilery material, that is fine to do.
Feel free. But if you would like to come at me with torch and pitchfork, because I don't know, I have a Midwestern history geography education. Okay? If it's not the United States, it doesn't exist. Bulgaria, Romania. It's been how many years since I read this book?
Even then, looking on the map, okay, you've got the map of the United States. If you're from the Midwest, there's pricks to the right, and there's hippies to the left.
Yes. And everything south of us is Texas.
Yes.
So, that's my excuse.
Okay.
Anyway.
Okay.
Adrian.
Yes.
Blow my mind.
Hold on, that'll be later in the video. You're going to want to be here for that, okay? Because we'll get there. The first thing I noticed is when they arrive on the campgrounds, the secrecy with which they are traveling has a certain type of heaviness to it, does it not?
Okay.
This is not levity. This is heaviness and seriousness, and they might catch us-ness. Okay? Mr. Weasley feels a lot of stress and pressure. Why might that be? Do you understand? Okay, I'll say it this way. I think that there is a cultural precedence for this.
Okay.
You're talking about the English culture in which the Catholic-Protestant wars happened, and it's hard to imagine this type of secrecy having the same feel from an author from anywhere else. For instance, in American writing, the sense of otherness often has more of an edge than this.
Okay.
Right? The sense of otherness in, for example, the X-Men. You don't want to be caught. But if you are caught, you're just going to kick some ass and move on.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Do you feel that heaviness to it?
Now, are we talking about the wizards being in the Muggle world? Or are we
Yes.
talking about Mr. Weasley here? Because you mentioned Mr. Weasley more than anyone.
Right.
Who are we talking about here?
You're talking about the entire group.
Okay. The entire group, yes, there's an air of secrecy. They're entering into a world which they are not...
But how does that secrecy feel? Does the otherness to this secrecy feel the same way that it would in, for example, American literature?
I could say yes. Are you not
To
saying
me,
yes?
no. To me,
Okay.
it has a certain type of heaviness to it, as opposed to the levity that maybe an American culture has. Because think of all the things, the Catholic-Protestant wars that happened.
Okay.
Right? That was on the level of the American Civil War, but there was so much more deviance going on. There were secret agents. There was this happening. There were people...
And you're saying it feels like that?
It feels like that,
Okay.
as opposed to the X-Men, which is... I don't know why that's the only example I can think of right now, but in the X-Men, if you're caught as a mutant, you just fight your way out of it.
I get what you're saying. This is every measur's being taken to know that this is hidden.
Right.
This doesn't exist to the world of Muggles.
Right.
When a Muggle gets an inkling of something that's going on, boom, disapparate, apparate, whatever it's called,
Right. Obliviate.
obliviate. You know nothing about this.
Yes.
So this is heavily guarded secrets. This
Right.
is huge.
Right.
Okay. Move on.
Okay.
Because I know you're building. You're building here.
You've got nothing to speak on with that. That's fine.
I thought you were building to a point here. More
No,
so.
my big point is something not related to this at all.
Okay.
I'll throw it out here now. It has to do with Mrs. Fig.
Okay.
Okay? It has to do with Mrs. Fig, who we have not, I don't believe, heard of since the first book.
Okay.
It took me a while to remember who she was. Okay, so the next thing, I'm not going to comment on Mr. Weasel getting excited with the mallet while erecting the tents. Use the word erecting. I'm also not going to comment on the fact that the girls' tent does not smell like cats, but the boys' does, despite the fact that Hermione is a cat lady.
Okay.
Right? I'm not going to comment on that.
They're going to comment on that. How do you feel about Vila? Can we talk about Vila?
I will get to Vila soon. Okay?
Is this the episode where I just shut up and look pretty?
Dalton, you look pretty in every episode. But yeah, shutting up would be a good idea.
Carry on.
No. How patriarchal, white, heteronormative, cisgendered is it that all of these witches and wizards assemble and they are rooting according to the nations they appear in on the map?
The nations they appear in on the map?
Yes, this is Bulgaria, this is Ireland, this is England. You mean to tell me that witches and wizards exist, but they don't have their own countries drawn out?
Okay. So
Witches and wizards exist, but they still appear in Ireland, as Ireland is on the map.
okay, I get what you're saying. There.
It is not some other...
Yeah.
Yeah. So these people, these witches and wizards...
We accepted everything that's been established.
Right. They grow as a nation like we have.
Okay.
When nationalism set out, the witches and wizards were all like, you know what?
Why
we
not?
were sparring with the witches and wizards that were across the river, but that's cool now, because we're both Irish.
Okay.
So let's just spar with the English, with the ones, right? Tell me that's not weird.
It is weird. It is. Now that you sit there and think about it, it really is weird.
They just accepted it.
I thought you were trying to get it. It's like, oh, all the Bulgarian wizards are cheering for Bulgaria. I'm like, well, of course they are. Have you not?
Right.
Sports.
But to
But no,
witches and wizards,
to say
Bulgaria
wizards
should not
and wizards,
exist.
Bulgaria is a thing.
Right.
They're adapting to Muggle limitations.
Right.
Something they do. They strive. They don't eccentricity.
Right.
They don't understand eccentricity,
But they
understand the borders of Bulgaria.
Yes.
Yes, I got you.
Okay. Now there's this small scene where I believe it was Ludo was arguing with a wizard who was wearing women's clothing, right?
Yes.
Now that just means that the trans community has so much more magic than J.K. Rowling's magic community. Does it not? That's more magic to me. Because if we are witches and wizards and we still care about you can't dress like a woman, but the trans community doesn't. Right?
Okay.
So don't, J.K., tell me that you are the ultra-progressive when you're still shaming people who are not dressing by people of their own gender.
Okay. Look at you.
Look at me.
Look at you. You
Look
are
at me.
across the board with this one today.
Yeah, this one really set me off. right down to Bulgarians needing tweezers. Right down to Ali Bashir being mad about an embargo put on flying carpets. Right?
Yeah.
Don't tell me that you're the progressive one.
It's kind of racist.
Don't tell me that you're the one who is the standard. Okay? If you want to put that in your literature, I'm fine with it. It draws lines a little bit. It is a way to segregate as opposed to incorporate. But I'm okay with it if you want to put that into your literature. But then do not have the nerve to beat me over the head with the fact that you're the progressive one and you're the one that should be listened to and you're the authority, right? Which is how JK often sounds.
Okay. Now, the whole flying carpet thing, I can get behind it. I can understand its implementation to this, right? Yes. Now, using it with that name and identifying it as, like, a Middle Eastern wizards thing.
Right.
However,
in the very same paragraph, I believe that you're saying Bulgarians need tweezers.
Yes. But the flying carpet idea, that's good. That grounds that this wizarding world may be more reality. Because every kid's heard of the flying carpet. We've all seen the Disney movie Aladdin.
Right.
So to say, oh, they have flying carpets, that's where it comes from. From a middle grade reader standpoint, I like that. That works.
But if you really want to make the point,
yes,
the flying carpets, they're the myth. They're the thing that doesn't really exist. Because people in the Middle East, they use brooms too.
Yes.
Right? Or they use something else that's not the flying carpet.
Okay.
But you don't relegate them to the stereotype. Which is what has happened here. I have a question that you don't have to answer because it's just me reading into things. Are we getting into fixing games? Because you have Ludo talking about all the betting, and the referees were so implicated in this match that I have to believe, with the last name Bagman as well, that's where this is all going. And I'm not excited. Okay. I'm not excited.
Okay.
We're, 100 pages into this book? That was on that quote happened on page 92. So we're 100-ish pages in.
How do you feel about Arthur Weasley and I believe it was Bagman talking about, or maybe it was Crouch, talking about something that's coming soon, the big mystery that you guys will find out soon enough.
Right. I don't care at this point because it's set up as looming in the distance, but it's going to be a big deal. That is just going to be a false flag, I believe.
Okay.
False flag. You like that reference?
I'll give it to you.
In the Harry Potter world?
False flag.
Okay. One small note I've got is that the stadium seats 100,000. Harry Potter was told, I think, by Mr. Weasel. That would rank it 9th in the United States. The largest stadium in the United States is Michigan Stadium in Ann Arbor, which holds 107,601 people, proving that football is at least 7.6 more magical than J.K. Rowling's Wizarding. So there's a lot of things that
even in the Wizarding world, football is still bigger.
Football reigns king.
All right. I like you sometimes.
You don't like football?
I like to pretend.
You like to pretend.
Are we getting to it? Is now the moment?
No, now is not the moment. On page 97, we get this. The creature whose legs were so short they stuck out in front of it on the chair was wearing a tea towel draped like a yoga. So when I thought that was a drying towel that Jen Campbell sent us, I am not the first one to wear a tea towel in that fashion. Okay?
Okay.
I just want it out there. Now, where I'm going with this, though, is a house elf is mistaken for Dobby.
Yes.
Right? Because, of course, all house elves look the same.
Yes.
Which is a racial stereotype, isn't it?
Oh, a little bit.
Now, what race is that a stereotype against?
That is usually a trope geared towards African American race.
Okay. So when you're listening to this description of the person who looks like Dobby, and they all look alike, with enormous brown, quoting here, enormous brown eyes, and a nose the exact size and shape of a large tomato. And they speak like this. You is surely Harry Potter.
Okay. Now, let's move on.
Don't tell me you're progressive.
Let's move on a little further than that.
Go ahead.
Dobby's getting some crazy ideas. Dobby wants to be paid for his work.
Right.
Dobby wants to be acknowledged as a person. This is... Yeah.
And here's the thing that gets me. When you're talking about something so stereotypical as this, which is just stereotyping, right?
Yes.
Like, there's no... Like, if you go back and you look at cartoons from the 1800s, this is how you're drawing... This is how they're drawing black.
She is attempting to use this as a vessel to talk about slavery. I get what she is attempting. Is she doing it well?
No, it's not even that you're not doing it well, Dalton. It's that you are taking something which is the negative stereotype, and you're just attributing it full bore to say, look how other people view this.
You're wanting to address racism by condoning racism.
By being racist.
Yes.
Not condoning racism. Because she's still got that double talk there.
Yes.
But you're being racist.
Okay.
You're condoning racism while being racist. Look, there's also a type... If you were to go to Bulgaria, you would... If you were to see a person from Bulgaria walking down the street in Kansas City, Missouri... You would not necessarily attribute them as something other than a white person, okay?
Yeah.
You would say, that's another white guy, okay? Now, there's also a type of regionalism that is the same thing. That's the thing that allows us to say Bulgarians need tweezers because they've got thick unibrows, right?
Okay.
This is the British woman looking down on the rest of the world. And the sun never sets on J.K. Rowling's empire, right?
Okay.
Which is probably the worst British accent that's ever appeared on YouTube.
You just offended 50% of the audience.
But you can't do that. And this goes right down... Look, the Vila are ripped basically directly from Eastern European, Western Asian mythology.
Okay.
Now, in that mythology, it's spelled Vila. Why do you change the spelling unless here's the only reason you change the spelling. If you're trying to take credit for it, if I don't know as the reader that those exist. Right?
Which I think your argument can be strengthened by the fact that we have centaurs, which are in mythology, but they are centaurs, spelled centaurs, because most people are familiar with centaurs. Trolls.
Yes.
Most people are familiar with trolls. Leprechauns, all the same. Vila, which is a little bit more different. Not everyone knows about the Vila.
Right.
You're taking credit for it.
You spell it different.
Yes.
And you attempt to take the credit for it. In a cheeky way, right? Because if I don't know that, and I Google Vila, Veela,
you're going to be immersed in Harry Potter world.
I am betting Harry Potter's the only thing that pops up.
Okay.
But if I spell it Vila, mythology pops up first.
So
now I'm not saying Google was taken into account while doing this, but you're not. You go to the dictionary and you look up Veela, it doesn't even fucking exist. Right? So this must be a word that J.K. Rowling has invented. But, on the other hand, if I as the reader do know what a Vila is, and I see it, oh, well, it's just a little nod, right? If I don't put the thought in to say, why is she spelling this differently, but leprechauns, trolls, and centaurs are spelled the same?
Okay.
Right?
You are on, like, a manic rage right now. I'm genuinely afraid of you.
You're making me read Harry Potter, man. But here's the thing with the Vila. While we're on this... Seduction of 13-year-old boys, JK? Is that really where you want to... Because that's obviously... Look, you can't read this and not see sexual overtones, can you? It is... They are not simply stunned into submission. They're stunned into sexual urge. Right? All of the men are stunned into sexual urge.
Again. 14. This is the vessel to begin to address sexuality. This is the vessel to begin to address that these children are becoming adults.
No.
I think so. Oh.
No, because Hermione is not attracted to the Vila. Ginny is not attracted to the Vila. It is Mr. Weasel, it is Harry Potter, it is Ludo Bagman. The men. It is the referee, it is the players on the other team, right? It is the men. So what is happening here is we're using the stereotype that men are slaves to their sexuality.
Okay.
Right? Now, would this play, if there was some magical, mythological man walking through the stadium, and every time he opened his wallet, the women melted?
That's sexist.
Isn't it?
Terribly.
But this is not. Why is this not? Because it is addressing men being slaves to their sexuality, as opposed to women being attracted to money. That is the only reason that this plays and that this is allowable. That is the only reason in this PC world is because it is the dominant that is being attacked here with still stereotypical attacks.
Okay. I'm not going to argue with you. I agree completely.
Like, okay, so what have you got to talk about?
I don't know at this point. I'm terrified. Like, I'm just letting you go. I'm being pretty. We talked about the Vila and the representation of human sexuality. I think that's necessary.
It's not human sexuality, it's male sexuality.
We talked about a little bit about Winky and Dobby and liberation of house elves and how that deals with racism.
Okay.
Let's talk about some writing here. Is this world building? Is this the trope of world building where she's creating her universe through this campsite?
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
I don't think it's done well. And I'll tell you why. Because the witches and wizards from Bulgaria are just like the witches and wizards from here, but they need tweezers.
Okay.
The witches and wizards from Ireland are just like the witches and wizards from from England, except that they're more violent about their sports.
Right? Is this her attempt at world building, though? I think it is. It's her attempt.
What world is being built that we didn't know existed?
Well, we have the magical fantasy world here, but at one point Harry Potter says this is the first time that he has seen witches and wizards, younger ones, children, small children. There's one who picks up her father's wand and, like, enlarges a slug.
Yeah, but I mean, you have to imagine that Ron Weasley was doing that when he was 2.
Correct, but as the middle grade reader, did you ever think of that? No, this is the first time. It has to be shown to the young reader. This is the first time that we are showing that there is a full world here. This is not just central London. This is not just Diagon Alley. This is a world of witches and wizards. This is the first global concept that we've got. This is the first multi-nation conflict coming together. There's more to it. This is world building.
Okay. I just don't think that is particularly well done. I felt more world building in Diagon Alley.
Okay.
Because you're incorporating more things. Quidditch we already knew existed.
Yes.
Quidditch can be played with 6 wizards or whatever.
Correct. We're going to get some more of this world building ideology through this book. I just realized how big of a nightmare this book's going to be for you.
Why? Is there so much more of this?
There's so much to talk about. You've talked about so much in 2 chapters right now, and
I've
you
ranted
love
about
it.
so much,
and you love it.
And I haven't even laid the mama on you yet.
Okay, well, we're 20 minutes into this video.
Yes.
Let's hear it.
I've got to go into this because let me tell you the story.
Okay.
I believe Fig was mentioned in the 7th chapter, not the 8th. But she was mentioned in passing. It was just a little throwaway line. Harry Potter had not thought about this or seen that or something since he used to stay with Mrs. Fig.
Okay.
And it made me remember something, and I couldn't place it. And I read this the night that we filmed last. The next day, I placed it, and I told you, no, we're not filming anything more than 2 chapters.
You shot me down.
I have to talk about this.
Okay.
So, if what I'm about to say... Just hear me out right now. If what I'm about to say makes you change the way you think about a very minor character in the Harry Potter universe, maybe click the link below and join our Patreon for just a couple bucks per month. If I have enriched your Harry Potterdom and your Potterhead and your Potterverse, we'll throw that out there now.
If Adrian blows your mind here.
If I blow your mind, consider me worth a coffee a month, as Amy from the Dusty Bookshelf would say, right? Okay. Jesus hates figs. Do you know the story about Jesus hating figs from the Bible?
Lay it on us.
It's Mark 11. Now here's what we're going to do. We're going to link a video to a Richard Carrier talk in the description below. Because I want you to be able to see this for yourself, because I might mess something up and I need you to check me if I do. This discussion starts at the 38:20 mark in Richard Carrier's video, which will be linked in the description below. Mark 11. Jesus sees a fig tree out of season. Upon closer examination, it has no figs. As one might expect, it is out of season. But Jesus becomes enraged and curses that tree, that it may never again bear fruit. Okay? This is followed by badass Jesus Christ in the temple with the temple clearing scene, right?
Okay.
He's walking around with the whip, right, driving people out. what is important to note about that, which is maybe a sidebar, but I think it's directly related, the time when this was happening, there were no guns. So if you go in there with a sword, that's like having an assault rifle.
Okay.
Step down from that, you go in there with a whip, that's like having a 9mm, okay? Because I whipped you, I break skin.
Yes.
You've got no clean water to wash that with.
You'll die.
Right? You won't die. You're going to suffer from it. You're going to get infected. You might fight it off. But it can be deadly.
Okay.
So this story is the equivalent of a man walking into a church with a 9mm.
Okay.
Okay? That's scary.
Yes, it is.
Right? That needs to be ratcheted up in your consciousness. Following this, Jesus and Bro leave the temple, and the fig tree is completely dead. It is not just cursed now, it is dead.
Okay.
So, Carrier, I'm going to quote Carrier here, and I think he was talking from R.G. Hamilton Kelly's book, Sacred Violence and the Messiah. But he says, the entire story... Okay, so what does this mean on a literature level? Assuming that story didn't really happen, because it doesn't make sense, right? Why would you curse a fig tree out of season for not having figs?
Yes.
So it must mean something in a literature fashion. So, this entire story is an allegory for God's abandonment of the temple. That is the Jewish temple, right?
Okay.
Mark was written post-temple annihilation. The Romans came in and crushed everything. Why would an all-powerful God allow this? If you were Jewish, why would your God, which is all-powerful, allow the Romans to come in and ruin everything, slaughter people, tear the temple down? You have to, on a religious level, you have to stop and rationalize this. Because people are rational beings. That's what we do.
Yes.
So your all-powerful God would allow this if he decided that the temple was no longer bearing fruit. The temple was no longer necessary.
Okay.
It was not the season for figs. It was not the season for Jewish temples. There was no fruit there. So the temple was no longer seen as the soul cleanser. Its status as that place had expired, and God allowed it to be destroyed. Now Jesus brings the word of salvation. Okay? We're talking about Mrs. Fig.
Okay.
So let's look at this. Mrs. Fig, if I remember correctly, Mrs. Fig is a lonely old woman, right?
Smells of cats.
However, she was a Mrs.
Okay.
What does this suggest?
That she is or was married.
And she is no longer probably... We're assuming because her husband has died. So
Okay.
she is an old woman.
Yes.
She is past childbearing age.
Okay.
She is no longer bearing fruit.
She is not in season.
She is not in season. So we're assuming that this is a little bit before... Okay. This suggests he is past, so the odds bear out that old Miss Fig is no longer of childbearing age. So then the fathers of the temple in the Jewish religion, the fathers of the temple in the Jewish religion are who? They are Abraham, they are Moses, they are Noah.
Okay.
They are James Potter. They are Sirius Black. They are Remus Lupin. The Romans / Satan / everything that is evil / Voldemort destroyed that temple. Did he not?
Correct.
The Romans, the devil, destroyed that temple. Why would they do that? Here comes Harry Potter. With the lineage that leads back to Abraham, leads back to James Potter, leads back to those promised people. And he brings with him the word, the truth, that means the means to salvation. So, Mrs. Fig is a link to that Bible story. The destruction of the old temple, of James Potter,
Okay.
leads to the word through this fig that is out of season. Now, here's what I'm willing to bet. If Mrs. Fig remains a background character, that is that she no longer plays a part. This is just something that... It is strange that she was brought up, but the fact that she is harkened back to does not necessarily mean anything in the text. If she remains a background player, I'm willing to bet that these links are coincidental.
Yes.
Okay? if she remains a background pair, this is coincidental, but that does not mean that this interpretation is any less valid. Because oftentimes, from literary criticism, what you do is you bring things into the text whether they were implied to be there or not, whether they were intended to be there or not. Right. Well, it doesn't matter if they were subconscious or not. If they are in the text, whether the author put them in there or not, even subconsciously, they can be in the text.
Okay.
If she does play a bigger part going forward, because it is sort of weird that she pops back up, I'm willing to bet that she's magical. If she's an evil witch, it is of a different type or a different school than Voldemort. And she was watching over him in a way that Dumbledore knew who Harry Potter was and watched over him.
Okay.
But she's doing it from a separate school of evil, protecting him from Voldemort, because even different schools of evil don't want that evil to win, right?
Okay.
If she is good, I'm willing to bet that she dies through sacrifice.
Okay. And that is if she is a reoccurring character, she comes back.
Yes.
And if she doesn't?
If she doesn't, then that's just an interpretation that's in there.
Okay.
But I think that does that make sense? Does that story make sense? Sometimes literary criticism. Sometimes literary criticism makes me horny. Okay, I was in a fever rage.
I know. You texted me. You're like, I've done it. I figured it out. It's the best thing ever.
It was like 2:30 in the morning.
It was, yeah. So, all that from Mrs. Fig.
Fig. The name Fig. Yeah.
Hot damn.
Fig. Does it make sense? Or is that something that only I see?
You explained it for 10 minutes.
Yes.
Explain it in a nutshell. You have 30 seconds.
You can't just lay that on me. Okay, Mrs. Fig is representative of the fig tree in the Jesus Hates Figs story.
Yes.
Because she is the link to the old temple. The old temple is James Potter. The old temple is Abraham. The old temple is no longer necessary because Jesus has come with the word. Because Christ the Potter has come.
Okay.
So, from the fig appearing, the fig story is representative of the fact that we've moved on. That now the Christ child bears the fruit.
Yes.
That now
we're in a different world.
Now the Harry Potter bears the fruit.
Okay. See, it's so much better when you condense. Sometimes you just go,
no, but I think that it's necessary.
No, it's necessary.
It
is necessary. This video became not Adrian reads Harry Potter. This is Adrian's literary criticism of Harry Potter.
Also, I want a shirt that says sometimes literary criticism makes me horny. Like, yes. I want that now.
Devilish grin as well. Silhouette of Adrian.
Oh, yes.
So, do you want to say anything else, or do you just want to let that sink in?
I think that is a valid point.
I like it. I do.
Okay. Then I think I'm set. Remember, the video linked below that starts at the talk about that starts at 38:20. So I think that's a big deal.
So let me do a little summation here, because I've said not a damn thing in 35 minutes now. This is a man who is in his 30s who has never read Harry Potter.
Oh, you're talking about me.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Yes.
This is a man who has just found literature, whether it be contrived from however he sees it, whatever, in Harry Potter. But this is finding literature through the choice of one word in writing. This is, as a writer, every word counts. This is building an entire pantheon, an entire backstory, an entire world based on the naming of a character.
This is also potentially. I don't know where we are with
it.
But this is also saying that your first name doesn't have to Mark means this. That doesn't have to be what is used.
But this is let's call him Jim. Jim works. There is the potential here that somebody could find so much more in something so simple. So bravo to you.
Yeah, that's what literary criticism is.
Bravo to you.
That's what literary criticism is.
Yes.
Right?
So, if you like this, make sure, first and foremost, make sure you flood the comments down below. Let us know if Adrian is right or Adrian is wrong, or if your brain just exploded.
And remember, if you say that Adrian is wrong, Dalton's too afraid to tell me anyway.
absolutely he'll never know about it. But make sure you hit that subscribe button. Follow us continually throughout this Adrian Reads Harry Potter video series. This video, very different from our normal Harry Potters.
Much more rage-filled, I think. Is that fair to say?
That's okay. That's okay. We need it now and then. Yeah. But make sure you hit that subscribe button down below. Give this video a like. We always appreciate it.
Make sure you follow us on Twitter @StrippedCover and on Facebook @StrippedCoverLit.